The Blood Syndicate would destroy the Justice League. What's up? This is the Monster Man back with another video, and today I wanted to talk about the Blood Syndicate, which is one of the coolest super teams that has recently got a revival from the Milestone reboot that was started in 2021, I think. And it's shown me that DC has been sleeping on this team. Pound for pound, I am pretty sure this team could even take out the Justice League and not have a terribly hard time accomplishing that. So who is the Blood Syndicate? The Blood Syndicate is a group of anti-heroes that started out as an actual gang that got swept up in the Big Bang in Dakota. They turned that incident into their strength by eventually overtaking rival gangs in order to keep the streets of Dakota safe, and eventually carving out their own territory in an island as an offshoot of Dakota. Because of their origins as a gang, violence isn't new to them, and they are more than willing to kill people who get in their way, so I think it'd be interesting to see them up against the Justice League. But how would they stack up to this super team, and why do I even think they'd be a match? Well, this largely comes down to the team's core members. The Blood Syndicate is fairly large when you consider every possible member, but there is definitely a core crew of heavy hitters that I think would be particularly difficult for the Justice League to contend with. I want to note, there are two versions of this team since the reboot has taken place, and some of the characters have not yet displayed the powers they have in the previous universe, while others seem to have expanded abilities. It's my opinion that the rebooted verse is leaning on making the character stronger instead of weaker, so whenever I feel that my argument will be helped by their previous feats, I'll mention that with the assumption that they would likely gain that ability later. However, even in their current forms, I think both versions of the team are powerhouses, and definitely something you should check out. So let's get started with the weakest core members and work our way up to who I think the real threats of the team are. The two weakest members of the team are the literal power couple Brickhouse and Third Rail. Brickhouse is a character you may be familiar with if you've watched the Static cartoon series. She had her back against the wall during the Big Bang and became fused with a brick, becoming a brick human. This gives her super strength and durability. However, her strength has been shown to being overcome too many times to count, and her abilities have no nuance that would give her an edge in combat, so I don't think she would be a threat to much of anyone in the league. Her boyfriend, however, is another story. Third Rail has the ability to absorb energy to increase his mass and strength. This gives him added durability and the potential to be stronger than Brickhouse. He can absorb all forms of energy, including electrical energy, like his blue energy form would suggest in the reboot. He often pre-charges before a fight, so he can already come packing a punch when a fight breaks out, but he can just as easily take it from his enemies as well. His clear weakness is that he can absorb more power than what's available, and I feel with the many flyers on the Justice League like Superman and Green Lantern, they could easily separate him from a power source during the fight once his abilities were figured out. Unfortunately, his base power level is completely human, and we have never seen him absorb a Superman level attack, so it's only speculation that he can handle that much power, so I have to consider him to be one of the weaker members, but he could still be useful in the right circumstances. The next core member I want to talk about is Masquerade. If this team would head to head with the Justice League, Masquerade would be an indispensable member who could sow a ton of chaos in a fight. Masquerade has the ability to turn into any person or animal, and he has actually seen a significant buff to his character in the Milestone reboot. Masquerade is no longer limited to existing creatures, as we see him turn into things like dragons, tentacle monsters, and even giant birds. While all of these new forms keep the red motif, suggesting this is a Beast Boy situation where he can only turn into animals of a particular color, leaving him with no stealth, I actually think this is not the case, and he likely still retains the ability to have any outward appearance that he wants, and that is due to this character's origin as being one of the first transgender characters in comics. Masquerade was born a biological female at birth, however, this is impossible to discern in his current form, which tells me that he has probably retained the ability to change his form fully into any color that he pleases. We also know Masquerade has insane physical strength as he overpowers Brickhouse in their first encounter, and it's yet to be shown, but Masquerade in the original Milestone universe was also a master of firearms, to the point where they could pretend to be Tech 9 successfully for months and run missions as him, without Tech 9's ability to conjure guns, and no one noticed. This marksmanship combined with his powers makes Masquerade comparable to Martian Manhunter in terms of strength and versatility, in my opinion, and he's definitely one of the members that's useful in almost any situation. Masquerade could easily use the cover of a fight to transform into one of the league members, like Batman or Cyborg, and surprise another League member with a superpowered punch to the face, taking them out. He'd also easily be able to bind a character like Cyborg or Aquaman to create an opening for another Syndicate member to take out, since we already know he has sufficient super strength. Now, next in the hierarchy, let's talk about Flashback. Flashback is the team's strongest support member, and what she lacks in physical strength, she makes up for in utility. Flashback is another member of the team whose powers have been significantly buffed in the reboot. In the original comics, Flashback could only travel back in time around 3 seconds. I believe she could loop her ability for longer intervals, but there was still a clearly defined time set she could traverse to the past, and in the rebooted universe, her powers appear greatly expanded, as she has the ability to jump forward in time as well as backwards. Her first appearance in the reboot sees her jumping several years into the future, causing her to physically leave her location to escape an enemy attack, so it's clear she can use her time powers as a pseudo-teleport. This first long jump was unintentional, but she has shown that she can jump to fixed points just by focusing, as she did in her fight against the Bang Baby Holocaust, who I'll be referring as Hollow from now on, since I'm not sure how YouTube will like that word. But being able to jump to key moments just by focusing makes her powers extremely useful, and since this team lacks a super genius, I believe her power will be indispensable for information gathering against her opponents. She also has a secondary ability that allows her to fly, which is good for her to observe a fight and stay out of trouble to preserve her time hop until it's needed. Outside of that though, she's a normal human with standard strength and durability, so she does have to be careful against all the Justice League members and couldn't fight them directly, but her utility makes up for that. Her brother Fade is probably next on this impromptu tier list. He has had his powers shifted in an interesting way that I think is both a buff and a nerf at the same time. Fade's core ability is his ability to fade or become intangible. In his intangible form, all attacks pass through him, and he even has the ability to transfer this faded state to whoever he's touching. He can even use this offensively by fading another person partially through an object, and people without sufficient durability die instantly from this. In the original comics, his intangibility was tied with his sister as being related to time powers, where he was literally out of step with time, existing 3 seconds in the past and future at the same time, which had the unexpected effect of making him intangible in the present. His time-related powers sometimes gave him the ability to briefly see the future, which made him a surprise threat in a fight where he could predict a blow coming his way and counter accordingly. If his powers existed in that exact way, I think I would rank him a little bit higher, but he hasn't displayed this skill in the reboot, but that doesn't mean it won't come down the line. He does however have a new power displayed in the 2022 Milestone Initiative comic, where we find he has the ability to slide between realities. He performs this reality slide to find a reality where his boyfriend isn't dead, and it's implied by his sister that his powers activated in response to his lover's death to slip him into different realities until he found one where his boyfriend survived. This has some pretty wild implications. Fade could theoretically slip into a reality where his team wins if they suffer a loss while he survives, and in character, the Justice League would probably leave him enough time and leave him alive, which would give him the opportunity to perform this reality slide. However, since we've only seen this ability once with limited control, I'll leave it out for discussing the final matchup. Fade's only weakness appears to be an attack done on him while at the same level of tangibility. For example, Hollow can only kill Fade when Fade was touching him, trying to make him intangible, and Hollow did an omnidirectional attack, burn Fade while they were connected. Not many characters could achieve an attack that could take him out like that. The only ones that come to mind are maybe Batman with a shock suit, Cyborg running electricity while Fade is trying to phase him, or Green Lantern doing a similar omnidirectional attack. Given that low likelihood, I think Fade is one of the harder characters to take out, with useful abilities against many of the other Justice League members, so that's why I place him here in the list. After Fade, we have the other intangible character on their team, Aqua Maria. Aqua Maria is a dangerous powerhouse character that shouldn't be overlooked. Aqua Maria is living water. Physical attacks do not damage her. She has to be evaporated with enough energy to be killed, and it's debatable if even that would put her down for good. As we see in the Initiative comic, Aqua Maria can control the temperature of water to create ice, so what's to say she couldn't reform herself from vapor as well? Speculation aside, her powers are proportional to how much water she combines her consciousness with. We have seen her become large enough to make a tidal wave that could destroy a city. And she's also practically omnipresent in water she's fused with, which allows her to see and hear anything near a water source she's a part of, as well as essentially teleport and form herself at any location where her water is located. If the fight gets near a large enough body of water, she's a threat that couldn't be easily contained by the League, even without the assistance of her teammates. Our two strongest members are the team's most frequent leaders, Tech-9 and Y-Sun. Tech-9 is the second strongest, and once I describe his powers, I think you'll see why. Tech 9 has the ability to create telekinetic weapons with no conceivable limit or variety. So if you're paying attention, he's basically a Green Lantern with no ring or power battery. In the original verse, I don't believe he's ever created anything other than guns, but we have already seen him make many non-guns in a rebooted universe. He's made shields, missiles, and energy weapons, and we already know Tech 9 is not limited to existing weapons, as he actually creates a Dominator in the reboot comic, a fictional anime weapon that he uses to fight Hollow with, and we know his energy shields are extremely resistant to many levels of attack. It's likely he could easily create a jetpack if he's seen one that could allow him to take flight in the skies, or simply create platforms to get airborne. Though as someone with military tactics and training, he would probably feel more comfortable on the ground, sniping and forcing the fight to come to him. His most impressive feat, with an asterisk, is creating a gun that was able to blow the head away from Hollow, who has massive superhuman strength and durability. While it's true that Hollow is less physically powerful than, say, Icon, who is a closer gauge for Superman level strength, simply being able to create a weapon that can damage a man who could easily survive point-blank explosions means that there's a strong chance this would at least cause pain to someone like Superman. And given he has unlimited rounds, that could be a real threat to a character at that level. Tech 9's biggest weakness is that he's simply a glass cannon. He can create powerful shields, but if an attack does sneak through, he's pretty much dead. However, his arsenal is definitely enough to match up against the Green Lantern. And if his bullets do scale to superhuman durability, enough of them would definitely break a Green Lantern shield, which have been shown to not hold up to sufficient force. Our final core and possibly strongest member is Y-Sun. Pound for pound, he is the hardest to defeat. He doesn't have super speed, and he only has limited super strength, but what he does have is true invulnerability with no upper limit. I truly think Superman or Wonder Woman, the two strongest in the league, simply could not kill him, and I think he would be the secret weapon for defeating the league due to his secondary ability, and I will give him his secondary ability, even though it hasn't been 100% confirmed to be present in the reboot, and I'll explain why. And it's due to his death in the battle against Hollow. So to explain, Y-Sun's secondary ability allows him to destabilize molecules to make someone vulnerable who would typically be invulnerable. The issue is, he loses his own invulnerability as well when doing this, and he must make physical contact in order to do it. In the reboot, he has not been openly stated to have this ability. However, the suspicious moment of his death makes me think it must still be in play. In the final battle with Hollow, we see Y-Sun get grabbed and thrown off a bridge by him. When he lands, he's otherwise fine, but we see him quickly get impaled by one of Hollow's teammates. This scene actually makes no sense with his base powers, as Y-Sun's abilities are fully passive. He does not need to know an attack is coming to activate them, as he first discovers his ability in a completely unpredictable explosion. This leads me to believe he must have lost his powers when Hollow grabbed him to try to create an opening for his team. It's honestly the only explanation that makes sense, because this is not a Wonder Woman situation where only bladed weapons are effective, so in almost all circumstances, impaling him should just fail. I believe it's also possible he used this ability when they killed Hollow in the final timeline. We see early in the fight that Y-Sun gets a clean uppercut on Hollow, and it's only after this uppercut that Tech 9's bullet is effective. I know I said before that Tech 9 created a bullet that could pierce super durable beings, but that's only true if you believe Y-Sun didn't use his secondary ability to weaken empowered people. Personally, I think him still having the ability is more likely, given that the other characters have enhanced powers as well, but this video is mostly for fun, so if you disagree, tell me your reasoning in the comments below. So how would these characters stack up against the Justice League? Well, to be perfectly fair and honest, the Blood Syndicate would probably get stomped, but only the first time. Here's the thing, the Justice League is just more experienced and has dealt with a wider range of threats for me to give the fight to them right away. If this were, say, the Authority, a team full of characters with busted abilities, who have the experience to back them up, which is a team I've covered in past videos, check this link out if you're interested to learn more about them, I would give it to the Authority right away, given that they have similar experience levels. And yes, I would say their experience is comparable, given the Authority have literally fought god-level threats in their universe. But on the other hand, most of the Blood Syndicate are still new to their abilities, and just haven't fought on the same scale yet. Their teamwork needs a little work as well, but they have one thing the Justice League just doesn't have on tap, and that's time travel. Once they get stomped, Flashback could easily come back in time with all the information they would need to win, and I think that win could be pulled off with a few proper matchups. First, I put Brickhouse on Batman, just to distract him while the other members take on the rest of the league. Brickhouse definitely would not win this fight, as Batman has taken out comparable characters many times before, but that's exactly why I think she'd be the perfect distraction for him. It's that confidence Batman would have that I think would make her a great distraction. Once any of the other league members fall, I think it'd be easy for anyone else on the team to team up against Batman and take him down for good. He would definitely need prep time in order to adequately take down over half the team. Next, I would take down the biggest threat, which wouldn't really be much of a threat at all. Let me explain. I would put Y-Sun up against Superman. It would be essential for Y-Sun to make physical contact with Superman, and Superman is the biggest threat to the team, so I think he would need to take the initiative and try to strike Superman first. Once Superman got a hit or two off of Y-Sun and saw how durable he was, I think that would lead Superman into a false sense of confidence and going after him physically, which would give Y-Sun the opportunity he needs to destabilize his molecules to get rid of his ultimate defense. Once this happens, he could easily signal for Tech 9 to take Superman out from a distance. Seeing Superman dead would immediately cripple the morale of the Justice League, as Superman is the biggest perceived threat, even though I don't think he'd be the biggest problem for the Blood Syndicate. After Superman's taken out, I could easily see Masquerade tricking Aquaman by pretending to be Batman or another easier to defeat Blood Syndicate member, and transforming into a giant serpent to wrap him up. And once he's wrapped up, literally any of the other Blood Syndicate members could kill him. And we're not going to spend time pretending that Aquaman is a threat to anyone. Wonder Woman would be interesting, as there aren't a lot of known ways to kill her. There's the theory that bladed weapons could get the job done, but that's just a theory. So I would put her up against Fade. Wonder Woman stands up to any challenge, so I could see her being tricked into at least attempting a fight with a man she can't touch. If Fade gets in close enough to grab her, he could phase Wonder Woman into the ground like he did to Hollow, and trap her until Y-Sun destabilizes her like he did Superman, to open up for an easier kill. I think Tech 9 would definitely have to take on Green Lantern. He created an endless arsenal of weapons to put up against Green Lantern's constructs, while also paying attention till the fight plays out to assist his teammates from long range. If he focused on defense and getting distance away from his team, he could probably drag out the fight with Green Lantern until Green Lantern needed a refill, given that he probably wouldn't come into this fight fully filled, or until one of his teammates came in with the assist. I could definitely see Masquerade flying in as a dragon and running interference while Tech 9 lines up a few kill shots. Next on my list is Cyborg, who I think would be pretty simple to take out with the right teamwork. I would put Third Rail on that fight, as Cyborg would likely unintentionally charge him up, and that would create an offensive threat for Cyborg. And I could definitely see Aquamaria coming in the stealth assist, materializing from water somewhere in the street or something, and trapping Cyborg in a mass of water, which would give Third Rail the chance to rail on him with his empowered blows to just put him down for good. And that brings me to the final two Justice League members I think would be the biggest problem for the Blood Syndicate. And these two would definitely give the team the hardest time. And that's the Flash and Martian Manhunter. Martian Manhunter is a telepath, and Static Shadows of Dakota showed us that 3 of the team's strongest members are pretty weak to psychic attacks. I am fairly certain a psychic blow from Martian Manhunter would definitely lead the team to one of their early failures in taking out the League. I do think they could overcome Martian Manhunter by figuring out his weakness to fire. It is fairly easy to stumble upon that weakness in a prolonged fight on accident, so as long as the fight drags on long enough and Flashback is paying attention, I think she could definitely go back in the timeline and relay that to the team, which could help them take out Martian Manhunter before he eliminates the team with psychic attacks. And if you don't subscribe to the idea that Martian Manhunter is truly weak to fire, I think you'd have to agree that it would at least interrupt his concentration if you're one of the PTSD subscribers, though in my opinion, fire is definitely a weakness to Martians, so argue with me down below. The Flash is another beast altogether, and I don't think anyone on the Blood Syndicate directly counters his super speed, the more I think about it. Even predicting the Flash would be difficult since he has superhuman reaction times as well, so doing a preemptive attack in a direction where he would attack would likely lead to him just dodging the blow and noticing as you move. There's 2 ways I could think to defeat the Flash. One would involve using Fade's predictive powers to predict where the Flash would run and grab his foot and drag him into the concrete. This would be an instant kill for the Flash, but seeing as Fade hasn't shown the same time origins in the reboot, I'm not sure he could manage this prediction. My other thought process would involve Aqua Maria, essentially creating a tidal wave of a whole area, flooding it, and then rapidly freezing that whole area where the Flash could run, with the hope of slowing him down or causing him to lose friction long enough for Tech 9 to get a shot off, or slow him down enough for Fade to grab him. His absurd feats are why I think he'd be the toughest for the Blood Syndicate to deal with, even over Superman. But given enough tries, I feel like the Blood Syndicate could pull it off. There are obviously a few more League members at different times, but I hope you get the gist that the Blood Syndicate is a powerful team that is kind of being slept on right now. They need a bigger spotlight, and I hope this little hypothetical fight video makes you see the same. This is definitely a team I slept on, kind of because I thought this was a villain team given the name Blood Syndicate. Not a great name, probably needs some rebranding, but they're a strong team that I want to see deal with more threats out there. So I hope they get a volume 2 because they're definitely a team with a lot of representation that I like to see. They're mainly an Afro-Latino team. But yeah, if you think this team sounds cool, definitely check out their rebooted comic. And let me know if you agree with me in the comments below that this is a powerhouse team. And that's my video for today. And if you guys made it this far, thanks for watching. If you want to see another powerful team, check out my video on the Authority destroying the Marvel Universe. And don't forget to leave a like and comment down below. Have an awesome day.